I am Chandrasekhar, and this is, I think, the fourth in the series of lectures on, or third in the series of lectures on D charts. We are going to look at the D9 chart, which is called in Sanskrit NavaMsha chart. I have already told that the divisional chart would not exceed what is being already told in the natal chart. At least this is how I look at it. However, it can give some flavors of a particular bhava whose expansion is actually the D9 chart or B chart, whichever divisional chart you talk about. They are generally called as Varga chart. I might use the term interchangeably. So you will have to excuse me for that. When I talk in 2 or 3 languages, this is what happens. But you have been always patient with me. So I hope that you will bear with me. As usual, we shall look at the chart of the divisional chart of Mr. Warren Buffett. We continue with the same person so that everything is available on the net. The charts are also available. At least the natal chart is available. And divisional charts you can find out. And we will try to find out how it works out. As usual, what I have given is, as you can see, natal chart is there on one part, on one side. I mean, as I look at it, it is on the left side, and on the right side is the D9 chart that is written in the Lagna or the ascendant position. I have written D9 to distinguish between the two. Here also we find that in Shadbala, the 6-way strength of the planets which is calculated, the NavaMsha chart or the D9 chart gets more numbers than in the 7 planet strength, 7 Varga strength as it is called, Sapta Varga strength or Dasha Varga or the Shodasha. So we have chosen the Shadabala. So here the influence is maximum. What is happening here? We can see that Saturn in the natal chart we are now going to look at. Saturn aspects the 7th house, which is the bhava for spouse or the marital bond, I usually call it. It also has Mars there. Then it also aspect, because here we are looking at the planetary aspect. Though in this particular case, it would also happen to be the Rashi aspects, because they are all dual Rashi. Saturn also aspects Venus in the 10th house, who is Karaka for the 7th house, and Mercury, who happens to be the Lord of the 7th. The only factor which has something positive is Jupiter there opposing this Saturn, causing a sort of what is called as Unmada Yoga, which means the planets do not allow each other to do their function fully. And therefore, we can understand that there will be some stress in the marital matter. It could be stress, it could be some problems. But would it result in a divorce? It could. But it might not. Because ultimately, Saturn is strong there. He is retrograde, though he is weak in the Digbala, and Jupiter is also weak in the Digbala, the directional strengths. You can see they are all, they derive only 0 strength from Digbala. But, and so is, of course, Venus, but Jupiter and Saturn, aspecting each other, could, in a way, sort of bring that negativism a bit less. How much less, we don't know. Whether it will, we don't know. And in which way, we also don't know. So now we go to the D9 chart. What is happening in the D9 chart? Because here we have seen the 7th Lord, the 7th Bhava has some issues, no doubt about it. The Karaka, the Lord, all are getting aspected by malefics. Now what happens in the D9 chart? D9 chart, here we are going to look at the, as you know, the Rashi aspects of Rashi and the planets within them will also aspect those Rashi. Here we can find the 7th Bhava Lord in D9 is Jupiter. Jupiter is conjunct Rahu. This is the part which we have to keep in mind. In D9 also, what is happening is Saturn is aspecting the Venus, because dual Rashi is the two aspect, and Venus is in debility here also. But if you look at the Rashi chart, you will find that both are in the Virgo Rashi, which means it is Vargottam. So it is not as weak as it appears. So what is happening? Mars there is in the seventh house, in seventh bhava of the D9 chart. I always call it NavaMsha charts. Sometimes if I do that, excuse me. Which also aspects, this Mars is aspecting Venus as well as Saturn. Saturn doesn't have a direct impact there in that sense, but he is damaging the seventh. But Venus is not very weak, one thing. Then Mars has about 8.75 Shadbala, as you can see there. So he is below 10, not able to exert much pressure there. Venus himself, what is happening with Venus? Venus is 13.45, so between 10 and 15. So he has a lot of strength there. We can't say he doesn't have strength. Saturn himself has less strength again at 7.95, which would mean that Saturn is also not able to, influence to the extent it could. So what is happening with Jupiter? Jupiter has strength of 11.05, the lord of the seventh power. But he is conjunct Rahu. And of course, the Lagna, which is Mercury, the Lagna lord is strong enough, personality is strong enough of the D9 chart at 13.95. So what happened was, he is also the Lagna lord, isn't it? And he is depositor of Mercury is again depositor of Venus, the Karaka. So Karaka's depositor is pretty powerful. He's at 13.95 strength. You can see that it is written at the below. I have given the Sharbala and then make out for it. Then there is some weakness to Venus because ultimately Ketu occupies his Rashi in the D9 chart. But it doesn't aspect anywhere, so it's not as bad. And Ketu is powerful, so Ketu can give something, some support rather, because Ketu gets 13.9. So what happened? It is interesting. The marriage did not break till the spouse was alive. But there is something there. Rahu is there. So Rahu is what we call the illusion creator. And Ketu also giving some negatives to the Venus, the Karaka for the marriage here. So what happened was, he married Susan. His wife was called Susan. She separated from him to pursue her musical career from 1977 onwards. But while going, she introduced her friend Astrid to Warren Buffett and told Astrid to stay with him and take care of him. Till Susan was alive, though Astrid and Warren was living in the same house, she was taking care of him in whichever way. He did not remarry. Only after death of Susan, he married Astrid. So here that something unusual in the marriage is brought out, and you can see it is the 11th house in D9, which is again a house of friends, where Rahu is today. There is something unusual, isn't it? It is not as if Susan had already separated, which anyway indicated with some sort of harm to the marital bond in the natal chart also, but it doesn't tell about what would have happened. Isn't it? Here, the Rahu acting also as, Rahu has his own ways of doing things. So he also acts like he introduces something unusual in the seventh bhava, because Jupiter, the lord of the seventh, in the D9 chart. Don't confuse it with the D1 chart. This is just a flavor coming. And associating Mercury, who happens to be the depositor of Venus is a bit strong, Mercury himself is strong, but Rahu uh, tends to reduce their strength. And the friend of the Jataka spouse was the one whom he married. The informal arrangement was already there, but it was done by Susan. So this is how some additional things you can try to glean from D9 chart. So in both there is a problem, but it is not as if because the malefic is placed in the 7,000 Saturn aspects is directly by both the, I mean, those who want to use the Graha Drushti, the planetary aspect, and of course the uh, Rashi aspect. There should have been big problem in the marital part. I mean, the marriage should have broken, theoretically. The natal chart can indicate that, but it also tells that it is not as big as we are thinking because Venus, the depositor of sorry, the Karaka for marriage is Vargottam, even in the natal chart. Mercury, who happens to be the third, seventh lord, is again causing a Bhadrapaham Mahapurusha Yoga a bit reduced there because he occupies his house, he is powerful. So, though there is harm to the, we see some harm to the seventh house, which is the marital bond. The bond did not break. Neither was it in a way in existence because Susan was staying somewhere. I think, she stayed to New York for pursuing her musical career. And he is called the Oracle of Omaha, He was at his own place. And this is how the D9 chart or NavaMsha chart can bring out the flavors. It can't just replace. Otherwise, if we, and as many people say that it is, you can directly look at the chart, then this would always tell that seventh house is so damaged that the marriage should break. It did not. So there is some indication of strength in the natal chart. There is something else which we find here. Some friend of the spouse herself bringing her there, and perhaps telling, you know, her husband that even if you could divorce after I die, you can marry her or you should marry her. That is not very clear in the whatever information is there. And so I shall take your leave. Uh, whether you like, if you like this to continue, do tell me. If you find some problems, there is no problem. I am used to bricks and bouquets. I like bricks more because they make me think. Or if my logic is a bit flawed, I can always rectify. But again, I will say, I do not look at division charts generally. Yes, I do look at NavaMsha because it gives me the uh, strength of the planet which is operating in the Lagna chart. So I should make it clear that I don't look at division charts as standalone chart, as you say. Neither do I look at the planetary aspects in the division chart for reasons that I have already explained. So, my dear friends, I shall take your leave and